in this episode.
College baseball, big stage, MLB baseball is locked down. What are your guys' thoughts on the future of the game, and are they going to capitalize on this opportunity?
Let's finish it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is Spiker Helms, and this is a show about people, culture, and how to create a winning lifestyle. In this episode, we're going to be talking a lot about baseball culture, more specifically, the college baseball season. We are on opening day as we are recording this. The date is the 18th, right? Friday, February 18th.
Opening day for D1 baseball.
Yeah, so I thought this would be a very apropos conversation to, one, have Coach Evan Pratte amongst us. And we've talked about it in the past on trying to further the game at the collegiate level. And it seems like it's a really good opportunity for college baseball with the MLB lockdown happening right now. We don't know if they're going to be having a season or not having a season. I just read a report there was only a 15-minute conversation yesterday.
Saw that.
Yeah, that's just literally like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, we're still not agreeing with it. Okay, we're out.
Hey, you don't want to budge? I'm not budging either.
Yep.
Thanks.
We want our money.
Yeah.
And they have, which is interesting, they have come out with some rule changes. Obviously, the universal DH is going to be coming out. The playoff system seems super interesting.
What they do there? I didn't see that.
It's a 7-team. Is it the division leaders, the two top division leaders have byes. And
The
then,
two, not three.
Not three. So the top two.
So, yeah, okay.
They'll have byes. And then from there, they'll have the wild card. There'll be a 3-game set.
Did they get rid of the one-game wild card?
They got rid of the one game. Yep.
Yeah.
I personally think that they should do the minor league system playoffs. I think that's a really good system. And
First half, second half?
Yeah, every game matters. But I guess in the trade deadline will be a little bit more interesting on that go around too. But I could also see, like, if you're first place and you've already gotten to the playoffs, you can just literally tank the rest of the season. So I guess that's not what they want.
Good thoughts, Becker. Good. Love it.
Maybe I should apply for being commissioner. That guy is not a lot of people like him right now. So college baseball, big stage, MLB baseball is locked down. What are your guys' thoughts on the future of the game, and are they going to capitalize on this opportunity?
No, I think college baseball has been growing and growing and growing over the last 10 or 15 years, obviously, with the TV contracts and ESPN, and they're coming out saying that they're going to televise 2,200 or over 2,000 baseball games across their networks, and that's just been a testament to the sport and the resources that the administrations have put into the programs. Obviously, the facilities are popping up left and right, are awesome. A ton of just super experiences for the players. For them to go out and play at the high level, whatever school that they're at, they're trying to do as much as they can for the players to make that a really cool experience for them, and it's something that people want to watch. It's a fun game, obviously, with the MLB stuff going on. That currently. I don't know how much it affects it right now, but certainly in the past that's affected, and families are trying to find ways to basically find something that's affordable and latch onto. And college baseball has been kind of that thing over the last X number of years. And just look at the College World Series; that's a awesome event. I mean, it runs a week and a half, 2 weeks, or whatever it is, and people get into it. And the regionals are great; they're always on TV, and it seems like there's an edge to it. People obviously, the players want to get after it and win, obviously, but it's just a fun thing to watch and be around.
Do you think where the season's at, how it's framed out, it starts in February, and then it ends in technically June? Do you think that is an issue to attract new fans?
Absolutely. I mean, and right now you look at it, you walk outside today in St. Louis, and we're not playing college baseball here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Most of the people in the Midwest, upper region, are heading south for a couple of weekends and trying to play as many games as they can. So that's an issue. That's always been an issue. And if they wanted to push the season back basically a month, finish it 1st of July-ish, middle of July, if anything, that would be awesome in a perfect world. Then you start looking at it and look at the dollars and what you have to pay out. to keep kids on campus in June and July, paying meal money and all of that other stuff. It gets pretty pricey. Now, obviously, that's been the pushback with the administration, not being able to move towards that direction, but being able to get 2,000 or 3,000 people at opening day in mid-Missouri or Midwest would be awesome, but it's just not there yet.
Well, I don't understand the whole schedule system because schools have summer sessions. So why is the NCAA not saying, yeah, let's put them into the summer rather than let's start in winter and then go into spring?
I couldn't answer that one for you. I don't know. I know there's been a lot of traditionalists with summer baseball. That plays a part into it as well too. If you start playing in the June and July, that's going to cut out all of those summer leagues. It's a lot of the middle of the road player that gets an extra 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 at bats over the summer that gets better for the next year. That cuts into their development. And they're this time of year they'd just be swinging in the cages and getting ready to go, and not having game reps. So I think that's a handful of looking at the playing part of it, side of it, would be a little bit difficult for the playing part. The coaches, agreeing to that, I think would be pretty tough.
Has there been any traction on moving that back? I mean, I heard that was kind of a movement. Who was it? Was it the West Virginia coach that was like all about it, like getting real vocal about moving back the start date, and then obviously it's getting fans out there. Nobody wants to go watch a college baseball game in 35 degrees. So it was obviously a play towards getting more fans out there. Has there been any traction on that you've heard of?
Not lately. No, I mean, it's obviously, like I said, in a perfect world, it's great. You start late March instead of, right now, month and a half. They even talked about pushing it back to March 1st, which gives it a little bit, 2 weeks, 3 weeks longer back into the interstate. It's still not early enough, or late enough, should I say, for the majority of college baseball, outdoor sport. It's not like football where you can just go out there and play in the snow and it's bad. The weather conditions have to be favorable, and right now they just haven't figured it out.
Well, also, baseball kind of gets overshadowed with March Madness in the beginning. It just makes sense to me logistically as a player. Like, don't get me wrong. I loved going to St. Joe, Missouri and playing in front of fans there. But at the end of the day, it's like I would rather play with my school and hopefully attract people into, like, I went to school in Springfield, so I'm sure that base, so there's nothing to do in a summer, so they'll come to the games during night. That just makes more sense to me from a small town perspective, rather than picking up, going to St. Joe, Missouri, or going to the Northwoods, or God forbid going all the way up into Alaska. I would just rather stay in my college town, and school is becoming more of a year-round thing anyways. Like, I had to skip out on classes because I had to go play summer baseball rather than play. I had two choices: stay home, do classes, or go out, play baseball, and try to win a position in the fall. And I wasn't one of those guys that could just literally jump onto a field and say, yeah, I can forego playing baseball. I can focus in on school. I just think it's a win-win scenario for the student athlete, but I could be wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's anymore. Schools and coaches are wanting their players to stay on campus over the summer times. If you think about it recruiting wise and the transfer portal, if I'm a middle of the road school, maybe not a top end school, I've got a lot of good players that I've recruited, and now they have the opportunity to go into the portal. It just makes sense to try to not hide those guys, but also to not get them out there in the Cape Cod League where everybody can watch him. Yeah. Now he's playing with buddies from other schools, and other schools say, hey, you can play at our school. Why are you at this place? Come over to our place. Now all of a sudden I've lost that player.
Yeah, it becomes a LeBron James
simply
thing.
Because I've let him go play summer ball. So, there's a lot of positives for that to get to the summertime, but like I said, there's been...
Would that hurt recruiting? Because the summer months would now then be for the college baseball coaches.
Well, I think they would find a way around that. I think the adjustments would be made with summer baseball, with everything, with the coaches being able to get out. I think the fall would be a lot more prevalent with those guys. Might be a little tougher with the guys that play fall sports that also do play baseball to get some looks. But I think they would be able to figure that one out. They may have some breaks in there where coaches can get out and watch the tournaments that are going on. They would just be that much more busier in the summer. But you're outdoor and it's 70, 80, 90 degrees, and you're probably apt to play more games than not.
What would you say the number one thing that college baseball should be doing right now to capitalize on this opportunity?
For me, I think they're already doing it with streaming capabilities. I think that's been one of the biggest changes in terms of people being able to actually see so many different schools. Like you mentioned before, we have a Tiger player that's getting the ball tonight for SEMO. They're playing the number 22 team in the country in Dallas Baptist. And you asked, well, is he going to be on TV? Well, 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said, well, no, because it's not the marquee game of the night. Well, now, if you go on to ESPN Plus or any of the other streaming services, there's probably 50 college baseball games on tonight, easily. So with that, it's opening up the ability for more people to see it. That's number one. Number two, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, because back in your days at Mizzou and all the different things that you were trying to push through to get more students out to the games, but kind of were blocked. And I'd love for you to kind of talk about that, because I think you look at the big schools like Ole Miss, Mississippi State, the Southern SEC schools that just get a ton of fans out there. It's a really fun experience to go to those games, but not everybody can duplicate that or have.
They make it a party. That's what it is.
It's an experience.
That's why I'm obsessed with Grand Canyon University and how they promote their sports.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a small little D1 school in Arizona, but they get fans that go to their basketball games, and they make it like a freaking party.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it kind of blows my mind, and I know not every school is built the same, but it kind of blows my mind why there aren't more incentives to get students from the campus to the baseball field.
Well, I guess prime example number one. I mean, well, what's the holdup on getting more students to games?
Well, in my experience over at Mizzou, the biggest thing is basically logistics. The field where it was located was over, behind the indoor facility, away from campus, so it wasn't real accessible for students to get over there. We talked about a million different ways when I was up there to try to get more students, and it was just one of those. Parking's not great. There's a number of different places, a number of different things you can talk about that led to that. There wasn't a real big, area section where they could come and just be kids and be students.
They don't have student sections,
which a lot of SEC schools have. What Dave was talking about, we talked about plenty of different things of like taking down the right field fence and just making it a chain link fence, and just letting kids come into the back door and through center field. Bring your coolers, bring your barbecue pits, bring your whatever, and just have fun out there. You put up some picnic tables and literally open the doors and let them come in for free. Literally, just get there for free. I think they can do that most of the time anyway, but if they wanted to come regularly type of thing. But it has to be a priority. It was tough over there. It's tough at a bunch of different schools, especially with the weather. Sometimes it's, in 2 weeks it's going to be 65 and awesome. Tomorrow it's going to be icy and rain. You just don't know. Yeah. That was half the problem with it as well, too. But you have to make it easy for them to get there.
Well, you don't know the value of a hill until you see the value of a hill, right?
Exactly.
Ole Miss has it. Emporia State has it. Southern Miss has it. And then they're able just to pull up their trucks and sit on the back and drink beers and
just based on my experience in high school. My dad went to SIU Carbondale. And he took me down there for a game, a doubleheader one day against Wichita State, and I will never forget that day. We sat in the middle of the hill on the first base side of Carbondale's field. It was the most fun I think I've ever had in my entire life. One of those type of plays, probably not the best, but it's one of those things you remember. I remember everything about that doubleheader because all the fans were having a blast. Everybody's yelling and carrying on. They're all drinking beer and having a party. I mean, nobody really got out of hand. But it was fun. I mean, it was an edge. It was a home field advantage, and it was great. Had a blast.
Do you see the priority of getting fans in the stands happening more as more and more of these bigger baseball programs become so-called revenue generators for the school?
Sure. I mean, there's very few college baseball programs that are in the red and doing well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just
there's more. There's more now than there was.
Way more now. It's hard to do that though, and break even and even make some money on that sport. It just really is. Just because you don't have a ton of fans. And you're not having 10, 15,000 at every game. Most of the schools, and obviously some of the schools in the South do, but the majority of them don't. And you're going to try to break even, cover your costs. But the more and more that's on TV, the more and more it's out there, the more and more it's affordable for a family to come for $35 or $40. A family of four that can get in the door and have a hot dog and not have to spend $4.50 on a bag of popcorn. You'll make things easy for them to get in there.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. I wonder if the audience continues to grow from a streaming and TV standpoint. If those contracts, whenever they come up, et cetera, I wonder if that doesn't start generating more revenue for the sport, which then in turn would force schools and the internal workings of those schools to kind of put a little bit more focus on getting fans in there to kind of add on to it.
Well, also these college baseball programs don't have a promoter behind it. They don't have a social media team behind it, where these big league clubs have that, and they're able to execute that at scale.
They're getting better, but it's
they're
not
getting better. But I mean, you said at Mizzou you were given basically an intern, and it was really a roll of the dice if he knew how to do video, knew how to do photo, knew how to do social media. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, you're still scraping and doing what you can. You're trying to make it work with what you have. And there wasn't a lot of dollars put towards that marketing thing with a lot of the sports, which made it a little more difficult for them. But the other thing, too, the bottom line, I was thinking about this whenever we were talking about doing this podcast. At the end of the day, though, you need to win baseball games. That's a huge, huge factor as well, too. Obviously, nobody wants to come out and watch somebody get beat up 10-1 every game. It's hard to do. And if you put a traditional, consistent winner on the field, whatever level it is, people are going to come out and have fun because they know they got a chance to beat the other person and have fun doing that. And obviously, the promotions and everything else help. But at the end of the day, the players, the coaches, the program, the school, if they win, people are going to follow.
Dave just posted that graphic from Baseball Cloud US, which they had the scrolling timeline of wins.
Yep. And
I didn't have the time to actually look at the attendance records between those wins, and if there was a huge correlation. My guess is that
sure there is.
There is, because Florida State's number one, which a lot of people. A lot of kids don't think. They think Vandy first, but really Florida State has been the powerhouse for arguably the last 20 years.
If you look at literally the last 2 or 3 years, look at Louisiana Tech. They just built an absolute gem of a field around their place down there. And within within a year or so, they're hosting a regional. They're ripping off wins left and right, and they're doing really, really well. And that's one of the first examples that pop into my head. You build a nice facility, get people to your park, and you win. It's going to take off. And that's a prime example of a middle of the road, mid-major school that's really taken off. And of course, in Louisiana, weather's better. I get it, blah, blah, but they made it happen.
I guess if you look back at the history of Major League Baseball, it's the same process. They started in little fields and people would crowd around. It was like a group of people watching these guys play with a lemon ball, and then it actually started progressing into smaller stands, and then people started showing up to these big ballparks, and now they're cathedrals.
It's an experience. It's a fun experience.
But the only thing that kind of puts me in question is Wichita State. Wichita State has a cathedral, but they struggle bringing in those fans in recent years. I don't know about the 90s when they were running hot with all those guys that they were pulling out. I guess it goes back to wins because they weren't winning like they used to.
Correct. I mean, back in, when I was at Missouri State, Southwest Missouri State, playing at Wichita was one of the most fun experiences I can remember in college because it was packed.
Yep.
And they had that aluminum stands and all of the people were banging their feet on this. It was intimidating.
Yep. And then they also had the hill.
And they had the hill. They had everything out that way. And Coach Stevenson had them going, and they were winning. And that one year they were in the World Series, I think my senior year. I mean, they had some dudes. But that was the intimidating part of it. That was a fun part of it as a visiting player. Like, man, this is cool. I'm going to do this at every place we go to. I'm going to do this at our home field types of stuff. So, yeah, that's the That's the thing over there that was really good. And now they built a really nice stadium. I think it's kind of taken away a little bit over the years. Obviously, you haven't won as much, obviously, like you said. But I think that stadium actually takes away from the intimidating factor of what they had before.
Speaking of dudes, one thing I've I've always been curious about, college baseball does not hype up their players really at all. Even programs don't.
Well, you don't know players.
You don't know them at all.
Think about Major League Baseball. I follow players more than I follow teams.
Right. Well, same in football, same in basketball, for sure basketball. Same from a college standpoint. I mean, the quarterback at, the University of Alabama. Mm-hmm. The star basketball player at Duke. I bet you a college baseball fan can name off 5 college baseball players that are stars that are going in the first round.
That also has to deal with ESPN. Like, ESPN has pretty much made those guys like household names.
I mean, the radio
talk show hosts.
The only 2 people I knew in the College World Series last year were Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker.
Yep.
That was the only 2 I paid attention to.
Well, they got the most publicity.
Sure. I knew nobody else. Now, I could have probably deep dove and been like, oh, okay. No, now I remember this name. But I didn't remember it off the top of my head there. So my question is, why?
Do you think it's because, like, it goes back to the social media aspect where you have to have someone behind it?
But even Vandy didn't even do that last year. They didn't even push those dudes as hard as they should have, in my opinion. Yeah, I follow all their stuff online, and I mean, they're being politically correct and like promoting all of their players and all of their team, and so does everybody else. And I wonder why. And I guess now they can get paid due to the NIL, but it's curious to me because I think a lot of the fans, like, for example, let's say SIU Carbondale, because you mentioned them earlier, at any given year, they could have a first rounder. Are they promoting that this dude is the next guy who's going to make a couple $1 million in the draft and possibly be playing in the big leagues in 2 years?
Well,
I don't hear it all the time.
Well, why doesn't MLB Network promote the heck out of it?
Is it because they're not going straight to the league next year?
That could be. I mean, they're talking about minor league baseball more often than not.
I mean, they're more fast track. They're more fast track now. They might be there in a couple years, barring no injuries. But I don't know. It's something.
I think nationally you won't know them. I think regionally you might, if you're a fan of the program.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of guys over the last few years that have gone straight to college, from college to the big leagues.
Yeah.
The pitcher at Tennessee went to the White Sox.
Yeah.
Those type of guys you may know, a little bit more. But I think obviously too that the TV and the social media plays a part of that. And I don't know how many fans really just I'm going to latch on to this guy. I'm going to follow that guy, as opposed to following the whatever program, the school program. I think those big names just don't get out there like they do in those other sports, and they're not as glorified as they do in other sports. And I think the casual fan knows that there's 30, 40, 50 games to follow. There's not like just 1 or 2 in football or a handful in basketball where you see those guys all the time. Plus, it's a spring sport. You're going to get outside more. You're in, football, basketball, more a little inside, bad weather. Okay, let's watch the game. You're outside a little bit more in the spring. I don't know. I'm just trying to find ways to think about.
Do you think that there's not, because in football, there's some coaches that are characters, right? Like they have their own persona. Same with basketball. I know there are some guys in baseball, but they're just not out there. Do you think that could be a problem with, like, fans just don't know, like, oh man, I can't, like, the household name, like Lane Kiffin or whoever, just naming off random coaches. Do you think it's because the fans don't even know the coaches too?
I don't think they just do enough deep dive. Nationally, broad, don't do enough deep dive. And again, I think regionally, when you're in that area, you do know those things. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to know the star baseball player from UCLA or Washington or Florida or Fordham or whoever. I don't know those guys, but I might know St. Louis U or Carbondale or Edwardsville or Mizzou or Iowa or Arkansas. I may know those guys just because it's in my backyard a little bit more. If I'm a fan of college baseball, I may take my kids on a road trip over to Mizzou or down to Springfield or Fayetteville to watch a game, to have them have that, let them have that experience.
You also don't hear from the players very much. They're not that active in communication.
They don't.
I mean, you don't get a whole lot of interviews with those guys. You don't see them being very vocal on social media. Because, again, I think it's just way more of a team sport still. Like, it's not pushed as being individual.
It seems like those guys start coming out during the World Series.
A little bit.
That's when they
more
start,
eyeballs are on them, right?
Yeah, that's when they start coming out. maybe it's because the TV's just not there yet, and some of the players like, well, what's the point? Like, there's no cameras on us, so it's like, why even spout
I think
out?
it also will be different if, let's say, like Florida State. If Florida State's on every Friday night nationally, then yeah, I'm going to know their best player.
So it's like the Notre Dame effect back in the 80s.
Kind of, yeah. I'll probably know, okay, I know that guy. I recognize that name. They're just not, they're not on there nationally. And ESPN doing all these, televised games regionally, they may do a national game of the week on the SEC network or ESPN2 or something, but it's never the same team. It's always a different team. So I'm not following, Florida State's best player. I heard it once or twice, but I'm not seeing it 10 times a year.
So
type of thing.
If you were a coach right now and you saw the opportunity, would you go all in on media, try to get media as much as you possibly can to the ballpark?
Oh, absolutely. That's going to get your name out there. It's going to get those kids out there.
So
for
would
sure.
you start trying to connect with the reporters?
Yeah, I mean the coaches that are the straight down the line, black and white, no frills. They're fine. It's great. That doesn't drive people to the park. You want to go see a Lane Kiffin. You want to go see a guy that's gonna go berserk every once in a while. You want to see that guy right out there and argue a call. That's our coach.
Well, that
type of thing. It's
the first person that comes to mind, which I love him to death, is Tony Vitello. I mean, he was in the stands during the playoffs, just high fiving students and just jacked up about the game.
Hence as the regionals and everything that they were in had overflowing. They had put people in the street next to the stadium to watch the game.
Yeah,
that's part of it. He's part of it for sure. But that what drives people to the park and get excited about going to the park.
Because I just think that builds on top of it. Like players see that. I always think about A-Rod when he was in Texas and seeing the Yankees and Red Sox game on TV, and he's like, I want to be a part of that. And then the next year he called his agent and he's like, I want out of Texas. I want to be a part of that series. Players are going to be seeing that and think, I want to have that experience. That's what I want to do. What do I need to do to get there?
Absolutely. That's the fun part of being a college athlete.
So doing our due diligence here, and for the people that are listening, who are your favorite teams that they should be following right now? Who's your favorites that you like for the season and that people will be entertained by, and keep track of them on either Twitter, YouTube, or if they do stream on ESPN, watching those games?
Well, it's up to the individual fan, but for me, it's just the coaches that I have some familiarity with. Of course, the guys at Mizzou, I'll follow those guys for sure. Of course, Tony over there, the guys at Carbondale that are now are all mostly Missouri coaches, ex-Missouri coaches. My dad went to school there, so I'll follow those guys. There are some still guys that are still playing that I've had some relationships with, so I'll follow those guys as well too. But I like watching the Ole Miss games, the Mississippi State games, like everybody else. I like watching the beer showers. Didn't like it when I was there in the regional. I think it was 2009. They're hitting home runs left and right, and beers flying everywhere. And being on the other side's not fun. But it's really a cool experience to do that, to follow those guys. But I still got some connections here and there. But I couldn't name right off the bat, but there are a number of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my favorites per se. Obviously, I watch and follow a lot of the guys who we've coached or that I've coached against in the past, because it's kind of fun to see how they progress and see just familiarity on the TV screen. And, hey, man, I've had some conversations with that guy, and look at how he's doing. It's fun for me to watch that. Obviously, the schools down south have kind of got it figured out and rolling, whether it's your SECs or your ACC schools, and you just turn on a game on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and the fans are packed, and there's wild atmospheres, and you go watch a game at Mississippi State, and they got their cowbells going, and then Texas A&M, I think, is one who ball 5, ball 6, and
if I had to put me on a finger and say I got to go watch a game someplace, it is Texas A&M.
Yeah, by
far the best in my opinion of any place I've ever been. It's just that the fans have the nuances of the whole game, everything that they do. From the time you get off the bus and walk in, there's always 20, 30, 40, 50 people already there in that upper deck right above your dugout, getting on you in a good way. But They got a train track that goes by, and they all try to guess how many engine cars drive by, and they all get mad when they miss it. They got the cowboy on the big screen whenever they have a strikeout. It makes me feel so good. I don't never forget that song every time we strike out, and just a bunch of stuff that's really, really. They had the bubble machine going. They really get into it and have an absolute blast. It's a tough place to play for a visiting team, but it's also fun. When you embrace those environments, you also, I think you probably play a little bit better as well too.
Obviously, I'm going to be looking forward to seeing the Tigers that are in that atmosphere. One of them is on the Mizzou team. I'm interested to see how Mizzou responds from last year to this year, and I'm actually very bullish on them. I think that they're going to be surprising. I also love to see what Oklahoma State does with their new stadium and seeing what fans that they're able to attract. And then obviously you have your Arkansas and your Vanderbilt. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Arkansas and Vanderbilt at the College World Series.
That is one other point too. The stadiums that are getting built now are pretty freaking cool, and they're starting to trickle down, like you said, with La Tech and other schools out there. They're upgrading facilities. And I mean, I think I was watching a game last year at the University of Kentucky because they just built a $60-70 million monstrosity, and some dude hit a bomb, and all of a sudden the lights are going on, off, on, off, on, off, and I'm like, dude, I want to be a part of that atmosphere. Like that, when we talk about driving fans there, that is also something that, you talk about at Tennessee, they got their club underneath the stadium. There's just so many cool experiences being built that will drive more people to the stands too.
I also think it's a trickle-down effect for our guys. And our guys see that, and a couple of our guys are at those places, and they go, "Oh, that's real. I want to be like that guy."
Yep.
That just makes our guys, our level, not just the Tigers, but all of high school kids, work that much harder in the offseason, work that much harder during their seasons to get better as a player, to take in more information, to aspire to be at those places. And it's great that the trickle-down effect's happening at the quote-unquote middle of the road, mid-major, lower levels, whatever. Obviously, it's happening at the higher levels, but it's also happening at those other levels, which makes it real exciting for the high school guy to go, man, that's going to be really cool when I get there. I got to take an extra 20 swings. I got to get a few extra pitches in the pen. Yep. I got to figure this changeup out, or I won't be there. So I think that puts an edge to our guys as well too, and they want to go watch those games. And that's another thing they want to go check it out and see what it's all about and feel that atmosphere before they get there.
Yeah. So if you are bumming around on a weekend and you want to go see a game before your season starts or your tryouts, February and March are really good times. Obviously, majority of the teams are in the South right now, Houston area, Dallas area, Louisiana. So if you have a free weekend, just drive down to Mississippi or wherever and catch a weekend series.
Well, the good thing for most high school athletes, or fans for that matter, if you're not in like the Dakotas or in the Colorado area or the Mountain West, you can pretty much get in your car and find a really cool atmosphere to go watch a college baseball game within 2-3 hours easily. And most are so much closer. I mean, heck, if you're in the Ohio Valley, you can probably hit a golf club in any direction and hit a D1 school.
Yep.
So get out there, go see it, go enjoy that experience because a lot of dudes are doing some cool things.
Cool. Any other talking points on this?
No, I think it's, college baseball is trending in a great direction. It really is. And it's even getting any better, especially from the professional side, with the draft being kicked back to 20 rounds. They lost a bunch of teams. They don't have as many slots available in the draft, which is pushing a lot of those middle-of-the-road high school guys to college baseball at all levels, JUCO, every level. Those guys, the fringe dude that would get here's a bag of popcorn, let's see if you can make it in pro ball. Those guys are going to college now. So they're getting their school going for 3 or 4 years, and then they're getting their chance to be professional athletes after that. So I think the college game is trending in an awesome direction. The level is just going through the roof the last couple of years, and moving forward, it's going to get even better. Just with transfer portal, the JUCO high school, the quality of baseball is getting better at every level, which is going to make it even that much more fun to watch.
All right, guys, that's this episode of The Closing Pitch. There is a lot of polarity in the SEC, Big 12, ACC, Pac-12, so be on the lookout as ESPN starts promoting those games, and maybe watch a Friday night or Saturday night game. And then also subscribe to this channel, give us 5 stars, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thanks.
Thanks.